Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. And Dynamite tonight, of course, was from the Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. And Dynamite was live tonight, which was very cool. And Dynamite tonight was a very enjoyable show. It was a very good show. This show was on fire tonight. It was absolutely a good show from beginning to end. I enjoyed what I saw tonight. Tonight we saw the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick. They ended up taking on Stu Grayson and Evil Uno of the Dark Order. And we had MJF cut another great promo, his whole campaign. And we also saw the TNT Championship on the line, where Cody ended up taking on Scorpio Sky. And we saw the Tag Team Appreciation Night that FTR, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, and the Young Bucks ended up hosting, where it featured the Rock and Roll Express, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard. So that was really awesome. And then we saw in the main event, we saw Orange Cassidy versus Chris Jericho. But it was part 2 of Cassidy and Jericho. But all in all, Dynamite was a very good show tonight. And before I get into the Dynamite review, I'm going to talk about the Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament that was featured on AEW's YouTube channel on Monday night, which I missed when it premiered, but I watched it earlier today, and it was pretty decent, of course. We had 2 matches, just like what we saw last week, so I guess every week we're going to be getting 2 matches. So the Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament this week kicked off. They were still in the quarterfinals, and the first match was Big Swole and Lil Swole versus Roche Chanel, I think that's how you pronounce her name, and Librarian Leva Bates. Of course, Leva Bates out there with Peter Avalon. And the match itself, it was a decent match, decent women's match. I liked the pairing of Big Swole and Lil Swole, and I liked how Lil Swole referenced, don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. The beginning scene, where if you've seen the movie, the guy goes, "Happy birthday, homeboy." Happy birthday, like that. But Lil Swole also did that. She referenced that. And she goes, "Happy birthday, homegirl," which was really cool. Really cool. Don't be a menace reference was mentioned here by Lil Swole. But you had Roche Chanel. She made her way out first. And, I like her gimmick. I know they said she hailed from Paris, France. And then you had Leva Bates made her way out with a god-awful entrance where, I'll just play the video right here. You'll see it. God-awful, this entrance here.
Very impressive. Ooh.
Sorry. That wasn't me doing that. Does that mean we're not supposed to talk about it? Oh, sorry. No, come on now.
It's comical. It's fucking comical with this entrance here, where she's just going, shh, shh, shh. Like, that gets annoying. Fucking god-awful. But Roche Chanel, she was decent here. She was a lot better here than her partner, Leva Bates. Leva Bates is just god-awful. And I know she was blue pants when she was in WWE, when she was signed to NXT, where she was basically a jobber. She only won one match when she was in NXT, and that was against Carmella. Everything else, she was basically a jobber. Now you know why Leva Bates and Peter Avalon are not featured on Dynamite. They're jobbers, in my opinion. Stick them on AEW Dark. Because that's where they both possibly belong. So, but Big Swole and Lil Swole end up getting the win. So that was pretty cool. Like I said, love the pairing between Big Swole and Lil Swole. So, but overall, it was a decent match. And then you had the next match, well, the final match for this week on the Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament. You had Ivelisse and Diamante versus Dasha and Rachel Ellering, which it was really awesome to see Rachel Ellering there. And Dasha, when she was doing the announcing backstage, and Medusa ended up coming up to Dasha and said, "You're going to have a match. You're going to be getting in the ring." And so Dasha was all, happy and excited. And Dasha, like I said, teamed up with Rachel Ellering, who was the daughter to Paul Ellering, who one of the biggest managers. Paul Ellering ended up managing AOP when they were in NXT, which was awesome. Before the downfall of AOP, when they were brought up to the main roster and they let Paul Ellering go. So, but the match itself, it was a enjoyable match. Dasha really surprised me here. She had a little ring rust, yeah, but she did pretty decent here. And you had Ivelisse and Diamante end up winning the match. So there you go. So Ivelisse and Diamante are moving in this Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament. So, but that was that. That was the Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament for this week. Talk about next week's tournament in the Dynamite review next week. So now we're going to jump into the Dynamite review. So Dynamite kicked off tonight with Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, versus Stu Grayson and Evil Uno of the Dark Order. And Matt and Nick, they made their way out first. And during their entrance, both Matt and Nick end up getting attacked by the Dark Order members. They end up attacking Matt and Nick on the stage. Evil Uno and Stu Grayson end up making their way out. And then the match got underway. Evil Uno, right when the match started, went right to work on Nick Jackson. And Stu Grayson got into the ring, started delivering some chops to Nick Jackson. The referee got distracted because the Dark Order members end up attacking Nick Jackson. Matt Jackson ended up delivering a senton off the stage onto the Dark Order group, which was cool. And then Stu Grayson comes out of nowhere and hits the suicide dive to Matt Jackson. And then it was back and forth between these guys. And at the end of the match, you had Nick Jackson. He ended up rolling up Evil Uno. And the Young Bucks end up winning the match. So there you go. Matt and Nick end up winning it. But it was a very good match. It was a very entertaining match. And then you had Wardlow backstage. Wardlow was shown pounding on MJF's door, to bring him out. MJF ended up making his way through the hallway. He had his campaign crew following him. We saw one guy end up getting ahead of MJF. MJF didn't like that, so he ended up shoving this guy to the side. And MJF ends up telling this guy to stay out of his shot. So there you go. And MJF, of course, was making his way to the ring. So then, after that, we had Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega. They ended up saying who their favorite tag teams of all time are. Omega ended up picking the Young Bucks as his favorite tag team of all time. And Page ended up saying that he was going to say himself and Omega are the favorite tag team of all time. Which was a joke, though. But it was funny. At least, Kenny Omega had to say the Young Bucks because he's part of the Elite. And then MJF ended up coming out to the ring. The ring had a red carpet in there, had a podium. He came out with his campaign crew. And before he got into the ring, he ended up going to the commentary table. He ended up shaking hands with Taz and JR. He didn't shake hands with Tony Schiavone for some reason. But MJF then got into the ring. And he goes to talk. And he notices Nina, who was part of his campaign crew, wasn't smiling. So MJF ends up telling her to smile. So Nina then ended up showing off polling numbers. And it was shown that MJF is currently beating Moxley. MJF had a polling number of 500%. And it was shown that Moxley has had a polling number percent of negative 1,000. So that was pretty funny to see, Moxley having a negative 1,000%. So, whenever you hear MJF on the mic, you got to listen to what the guy has to say, because this guy delivers great promos. You have to watch and listen to what he has to say. But MJF ended up saying that he cares about the fans' well-being. He says he also mourns for their belief in their leader, for dictator John. Of course, talking about John Moxley. So MJF went on and he said Moxley would care about the people if he was here. MJF also went on to say that he'll always be here, though. And he ends up saying that he thinks Moxley isn't here because Moxley is afraid of change. And also because of him, because of MJF. So MJF ends up saying that he wants Moxley to feel comfortable enough to show up to his job. So then MJF lays down on the mat. He lays down on his back. And I like the camera work that was done here, where you had the camera, up high, and you saw a high shot of MJF laying down on the mat. So MJF ended up saying that, is this better, John? You in your comfort zone? So MJF then went on to say that the company deserves quality leadership. He ended up calling Moxley a rabid dog. And MJF ended up saying that he thinks it's time for Moxley to fork the keys over to someone who is better than him. Because everyone knows that we deserve better. So then Jon Moxley's music ended up hitting, and MJF ended up sending all of his campaign people out to the stands to cut Moxley off, because he knows that Moxley ends up making his way from the stands to the ring. And MJF still stood in the ring. So we saw Moxley, he didn't come through the stands, but he came through the entranceway. So MJF had his back turned, thinking that Moxley was coming from the stands. So Moxley gets into the ring, and he attacks MJF from behind, starts swinging away on MJF. He then ends up taking MJF and throws him into the podium. And after that, Moxley ended up delivering the paradigm shift to MJF. And Moxley then headed towards the back. So MJF and his campaign people come back into the ring to check on him. Moxley was shown backstage. Moxley ended up grabbing the mic, and he ended up saying that they aren't even close to being even until at All Out. So that was that. And then you had MJF, his neck was hurting. You saw him like he was in pain from the paradigm shift from Moxley. But that was that. But really good segment, really good promo segment that MJF ended up doing. Whenever, like I said, whenever you hear this guy talk, you just gotta listen and watch what he has to say. The guy is that good on the mic. And the guy is championship material here. So, but good segment, good camera work on that part where MJF was lying down on the mat. And then we had Alex Marvez. He was interviewing Matt Hardy. And Matt Hardy ended up saying that he needed 13 stitches and that he will need to take 10 days off until he's medically cleared because of the attack from Sammy Guevara last week, where Sammy Guevara ended up throwing the chair at Matt Hardy's head, which busted Matt Hardy open. And then Guevara ended up putting Hardy through the table. So Matt Hardy had to get 13 stitches, and he needs to take 10 days off. So Matt Hardy ended up saying that he's doing fine though, because he doesn't die. He ended up saying that 10 days is perfect timing. And Matt ends up saying that he's not going to wait until then. He's going to hang around tonight to end Sammy Guevara. So Matt Hardy then thinks he sees Sammy Guevara because has hat turned around, and Matt Hardy then goes and attacks this person, thinking that it's Sammy Guevara, throws him right into the garage door, and we turn around, and the guy turns around, and it's not Sammy Guevara. It was one of the referees. So there you go. That was basically what happened. And it was said that next week's Dynamite is going to be on Saturday because a few weeks Dynamite's not going to be on Wednesdays because of the NBA. So Dynamite is going to take place on Saturday next week. So that's going to be pretty cool. I mean, we have Dynamite next week on Saturday, and we have SummerSlam the next day, which, is cool. So, there you go. And then we had the TNT Championship on the line. Cody defending the title against Scorpio Sky. And this was a awesome match. This was a really good match. Both of these guys gave it all they got. And we had Mike Choida refereeing the match, which was awesome. This was his debut on AEW. It was awesome to see Mike Choida again. So the match ended up getting on the way. It was back and forth between Cody and Scorpio Sky. You had Cody end up going for a leap. Scorpio Sky end up dodging it. Cody ended up flying out to the floor. Shoulder block by Scorpio Sky. We had a point in the match where Cody ended up hitting the crossroads to Scorpio Sky, and Cody went for the pin, and Scorpio Sky ended up kicking out of the crossroads, and Cody was just shocked because who have you seen kick out of the crossroads? That was really cool to see Scorpio Sky kick out of the crossroads, because Scorpio Sky was looking to go for the TKO. Cody ended up reversing it, hit the crossroads, and that's when Scorpio Sky ended up kicking out. Cody then ended up looking to go for a pile driver. Scorpio Sky ended up countering it. Scorpio Sky ended up dropping Cody. Scorpio Sky ended up heading up to the apron. Ended up doing a slingshot cutter attempt. But Cody ended up getting the crossroads again. There you go. Went for the pin. There you go. Cody ended up winning the match, retaining the TNT Championship. But overall, very good match. Was shocked to see Scorpio Sky kick out of the crossroads. But there you go. Post-match, you had Brody Lee. Brody Lee was on the screen, and he was holding the old TNT Championship. So Brody Lee ended up saying that on August 22nd, next Saturday, something big is coming. Brody Lee ended up saying that some other members of the Elite have been taken out, and that now it's time for him to put down Cody. So Brody Lee ended up saying that he's going to take the title out of Cody's hands and give him back the old, incomplete TNT Championship. So there you go. So that was what Brody Lee had to say. And then we had the AEW World Tag Team Championship on the line. Hangman and Page and Kenny Omega defending them against Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus of the Jurassic Express. Pretty good match here. You had Frankie Kazarian in the crowd. He was watching the match. And we had Kenny Omega and Jungle Boy start off the match. You had Marco Stunt. He ended up getting on the ring apron because Marco Stunt was also out there along with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. He got up on the ring apron, started barking at Kenny Omega, and he then ended up getting slapped at by Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega ended up slapping Marco Stunt. Jungle Boy then went to work on Kenny Omega, delivered a springboard arm drag, and Luchasaurus get into the match. He ended up dropping Kenny Omega. Omega ended up kicking out at 2. Omega came back, started firing back with chops and punches to Luchasaurus. Jungle Boy ended up taking himself back in. He ended up going to the top. He did a flip on Kenny Omega, and Kenny Omega ended up kicking out at 2. And at the end of the match, you had Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page do the V-Trigger Buckshot Lariat combo on Jungle Boy. Went for the pin, and then there you go. Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega ended up win the match, retaining the World Tag Team Championship. But overall, good match. Really enjoyed the match. And then we had Santana and Ortiz backstage. They ended up taking the best friends' luggage. They ended up taking Chuck Taylor, Chucky T, and Trent's luggage. They took the luggage into the showers. They emptied out the luggage, and both Santana and Ortiz end up dumping a bunch of bleach on them, on the luggage. So they end up saying, apologize. What are you tripping? So Santana ended up saying that in regards to the best friends wanting an apology for them, destroying the van, from last week. So that was that. You had Santana and Ortiz empty out their luggage, the best friends' luggage, pouring bleach all over everything that was inside. So that was that. And then we had the Tag Team Appreciation Night hosted by FTR, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, and Nick Jackson. You had Arn Anderson out there, Tully Blanchard, and the Rock and Roll Express. And you had Matt Jackson end up saying that the Rock and Roll Express are the original Young Bucks. He ended up saying that their style is what he and Matt put on display. And Matt ended up thanking them for being here. And we wouldn't be here without him. So Dax Harwood ended up saying that the fans are probably thinking FTR wanted Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard here because he's a mark for them. So Dax Harwood ended up saying, well, I am a big mark for them. So Dax Harwood ended up talking about, again, to have time, the time of his life traveling the world with his best friend, with Cash Wheeler. And he said that's all because of the 4 legends that are in the ring. So Dax says he has the life he has because of those 4 legends. So Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express ended up getting on the mic. He ended up talking about how FTR has some amazing chemistry. And the Young Bucks have done some amazing things and are the best team of their generation. So Arn Anderson got on the mic. Arn ended up telling the Young Bucks that they have taken tag team wrestling to a different stratosphere. And tag team wrestling is thriving in AEW. AEW has a better tag team division than what we see with WWE, which their tag team division on both Raw and SmackDown are fucking garbage. Take a look at AEW's tag team division. Look how good that they're treating their tag team division. And then look at WWE. AEW's tag team division blows the water out of WWE's tag team division by far. So you had him saying, Arn Anderson ended up saying that FTR is the best tag team in the world. So Tully Blanchard then snatched the mic from Ricky Morton, and Tully ended up saying that he's got news for everyone in the ring that was in the ring with him. He ended up saying that Tom Brady is the best because he got the rings. Oh, God. Tom Brady. Not a fan of Tom Brady. He ended up saying that those in wrestling can talk about being the best when they have the titles. And neither team have that. So Tully then ends up telling Arn Anderson that he doesn't understand the Nightmare Family thing at all. And then we see Shawn Spears slowly making his way out. Arn Anderson noticed that Shawn Spears was out. Arn Anderson ended up making his way out, but Tully Blanchard ends up going to talk again. And then Ricky Morton ends up hitting Tully Blanchard in the face. There was shoving going on, and Dax Harwood ended up going down because of his knee. Remember last week he ended up injuring his knee. So Shawn Spears was shown backing Tully Blanchard up, Tully away, as the Young Bucks end up backing them up on the stage. And then you see FTR, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler. They take Dax Harwood's brace and they attack the Rock and Roll Express. So they end up spike pile driving Ricky Morton. Paige and Kenny Omega end up coming out, and they were confused at what FTR did. So we had Cash Wheeler, Dax Harwood end up walking around the ring, and they made their way to the stage. And that was that, but I was really surprised, with FTR, attacking the Rock and Roll Express. But, while I'm waiting down the line, we see that that FTR versus the Young Bucks come into play. It's going to happen sooner or later. I can't wait to see that match when it finally happens. That'll probably be the best match of the year, whenever that match takes place. So then after that, which I say the Tag Team Appreciation Night segment, it was very enjoyable, in my opinion. So then we went backstage. Alex Marvez was talking with Mike Chioda, and then Chris Jericho ends up showing up. He was still wearing his jacket, his $7,000 jacket that was doused in orange juice. Jericho ended up saying that Chioda and him have been around the world and that they've had a few great times. Jericho ended up telling Mike Chioda about the time that he saved Chioda's job 18 years ago. And that's why Jericho brought him in again for his match against Orange Cassidy. So Jericho ended up saying when the time is right, he'll need Mike Chioda to do the right thing. So Chioda ended up saying to Jericho that he's going to call the match right down the middle. And Jericho ended up saying when he needs Chioda, he better do the right thing, and he'll get him a job again in AEW. So there you go. That was what Jericho had to say to Mike Chioda. And then we had Hikaru Shida versus Heather Monroe. This was a quick match. Hikaru Shida ended up winning. So that was that in a submission, in a leg lock submission that Hikaru Shida ended up locking in on Heather Monroe. So there you go. Hikaru Shida ended up winning. Post-match, you had Tony Schiavone end up asking Hikaru Shida about having a lot of challengers for her AEW Women's World Championship. And she ended up saying to Tony Schiavone, I'm still waiting. Bring it on. So she was saying that to her challengers who want to challenge her for the title. And then we saw Jake the Snake Roberts. He was in the dressing room with Lance Archer. So Jake Roberts ended up going to talk, and the random guy walks in the dressing room. Lance Archer was shown beating the hell out of this guy, and Lance Archer ended up beating up another guy. Roberts ended up talking about, owning someone and that they are afraid to make a move. And that's what, insulting fear is. as what Jake Roberts said. So Lance Archer then ended up ripping Jake Roberts' shirt off. And it said, "Everybody dies" on his back, on Jake Roberts' back. So that was that. So the commentators then announced that what we're going to see on next week's Dynamite, which is going to be on Saturday. It's going to be on at 6 o'clock, following, I guess, the NBA playoffs. And that's why they're not going to be on Wednesday nights for a few weeks, because of the NBA playoffs. So I'm going to be watching NXT now. So, when Dynamite is not on those Wednesdays. So Wednesday nights are going to be NXT for me until Dynamite returns on Wednesday nights. So they announced that we're going to be seeing FTR versus Private Party, The Elite versus Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and Alan Angels. We're going to be getting the finals for the Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament. They also announced that Darby Allin is going to be in action. We're going to be seeing the Lucha Brothers, the Butcher and the Blade versus Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, QT Marshall, and Dustin Rhodes. And the TNT Championship on the line, Cody versus Brody Lee, which that's going to be a really good match. But that's what we're going to be seeing on next week's edition of Dynamite, which, like I said, it's going to be on Saturday. So that's going to be a pretty good show there. And then we had Jericho versus Orange Cassidy Part 2. And we had Best Friends and Inner Circle band from ringside. And this was a really awesome match between Jericho and Orange Cassidy. Going at it again. And we saw Orange Cassidy. He went to put his hands in his pockets. And he ended up faking out Jericho. He ducked a punch. And starts swinging away on Jericho. He did a shoulder block on Jericho, Orange Cassidy. He ended up clotheslining Jericho out to the floor. Did a crossbody splash on Jericho. Started laying more punches. Jericho then ended up getting thrown into the side of the stage by Cassidy. Cassidy then ended up heading to the top rope. He put his hands in his pockets. And he ended up landing down on Jericho from the top, which was really cool. Then we went back into the ring. Cassidy ended up leaping off the top rope, hit a DDT to Jericho. Jericho ended up kicking out at 2. And he had Cassidy looking to go for the Superman punch, but Jericho ended up kicking Cassidy to stop Cassidy from doing the Superman punch. And you had, at the end of the match, Orange Cassidy ended up getting the win because Hager ended up running out, and he ended up planting Orange Cassidy down on the mat. Jericho ended up going for the cover on Cassidy. Cassidy kicked out at 2. Jericho ended up bumping into the referee, and Cassidy and the referee didn't see that. And Jericho ended up missing the Judas effect, and Orange Cassidy ended up pinning Jericho right there. So there you go. Orange Cassidy ended up winning. But it was a surprise. I was surprised to see Cassidy win. Overall, it's a pretty good match from Jericho and Cassidy. I have to say, this was not as good as their first match, which the first match is, without a doubt, one of Jericho's best matches in AEW so far. So, but I enjoyed their first match, much better than what we saw tonight. But it was still a good match either way, and seeing Orange Cassidy win the match was a surprise. Well, overall, good edition of Dynamite tonight, and we'll see next Saturday. With the show that they got lined up. Cody versus Brody Lee. Like I said, it's going to be a good match. Darby Allin's going to be in action, which that's going to be really cool. We all like Darby Allin. FTR versus Private Party. That's going to be a pretty fun match. The finals of the Women's Tag Team Cup Tournament. That's going to be pretty decent to see. So there you go. So anyways, that's it for my review of Dynamite. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review, and definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until next video, which will be the SmackDown review, of course. So until then, I'll see you all later.